Hello and welcome back to the Atma podcast, where we give you the tips, tools, and strategies you need to be successful. My name is Brian and I'll be your host today, and I've got the special ladies back here, Ivy and Bree. I know you're gonna say, I know what you're gonna say already. How about you just introduce your first names and just say hello? How about that?
Okay. Hi, I'm Ivy. I'm an intern at Atma.
Hi, I'm Bree, and I'm a content writing intern here at Atma. And if you don't know us, you have to watch the previous episode.
Oh, she changed it up. Hook'em is what I was expecting.
Hook'em.
All right.
Go Longhorns.
So let's go into. So this is we're gonna wrap this kind of 3 episodes up here in the series, and we're talking about something a little bit more serious, and we're gonna talk about mental health and how to combat that, because there's a lot of people that are fearing to be on social media because they know they're going to be judged by these pretty faces here since they're Gen Zers, and they're like, I shouldn't be on social media. So here's kind of how to combat that. Like I was explaining in the last episode, obviously I'm not a model. Right, and I don't plan on being a model. I mean, that's definitely not in my wheelhouse. Okay, so they're like, yeah, they agreed. They sound messed up. They're so judgmental. Anyway, so what kind of advice do you guys give to those that are wanting to be on social media, that just have this sense of fear of being on social media? What kind of advice are you going to give them?
I'd say just try to be yourself, right? Maybe not everything about yourself, but just be like the main basis of yourself, right? A lot of people, they have like personas online and people see right through them. We talked about that a lot. So just be yourself, and you're just going to have to prepare if people are going to not like you and work around that. I've seen people are like, yo, like, what is this person doing? Next thing you know, this person created a trend because 1 or 2 people like that person, and then the majority of people will like that person eventually, right? It just depends on time, and something you just can't be afraid. You just have to put yourself out there.
And you can't really take it to heart, because there's gonna be people who are mean. They call them trolls, and they're purposely there to, be rude and make horrible comments and create controversy. And they call them like keyboard warriors because they get so mad about stuff and so rude about everything. And they can hide because you don't see them in person. They're behind a screen. You don't really know who they are. And so you just have to make sure that you are aware that they do exist, but that you can't let that affect you. You can't let that have power over you and what you're doing. And for businesses, I feel like it's important that, they just stick to who they are and know that there are people who support them. And if they're scared of social media, there are going to be people who judge you no matter what.
Yeah.
Because that's what comes with a business. And if you're on social media, maybe that can be amplified a bit, but you can also create tremendous success on social media, and you'll never know if you can get that if you don't even go on at all.
Yeah, I remember I have 2 TikTok accounts. Maybe that's a little crazy for me. So you don't really get this, Ryan, but for TikTok, there's a difference between a main account and a spam account. And a spam account is where it's your friends, right? It's where you post whatever you want because it's just your friends following it. And then your main account is where you post, like, I want to say thirst traps, but thirst traps. And
thirst trap. Oh, hold on. Let's not go into that topic, okay? All right.
It's not thirst traps. It's just like lip singing.
Okay.
You're just lip singing in videos, and you just like, let's say you just have your makeup on. That's how it is, right? And so I had posted something on my main account, I guess, and I've had somebody. I can't even get into the whole story, but I got a little bit more attention on my main account, and a lot of people are like, "Oh wow, like you're pretty," and then another person's like, "Oh, Batman eyebrows." Like, it's crazy out there. Like, it's a very mixed review.
Okay.
But you just can't take it to heart, is what it is.
So, that's interesting. All right. So, should we and I actually talked about this, and I talked about these separately on a different podcast, because that's kind of concerning, right? So, you're talking about, and you're going back from business to personal, that's actually concerning that you got these Batman eyebrows now. But, obviously, you're younger, right? You're a teen, you're in high school, you're on this podcast because your parents have given you the rights to be on this podcast and talk at free will. However, you said a lot about TikTok, and there's a lot of problems right now with TikTok. Do you think this is part of the problem? Like, people that are older having access and being able to see content from younger people?
Yeah, it's just, I feel like the older generation, not to sound cliche again, but they just don't really get it,
Mm-hmm.
And that's something you probably hear from your kids. You don't understand me and stuff like that, which is like cliche, but it's definitely true, right? It's when it comes to certain age groups. I mean, you could say things when we were just talking about songs, and I didn't understand a single song that you were talking about, right? And there's certain generations to where you know what you know, and you don't know about other generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what it is that they're intimidated by it. They see that it's a little more out there than other things and more on sensitive topics. So I think they tend to be like, feel a little scared and intimidated by it.
Okay, so because we talked about this earlier, and we talked about the type of sensitive, because here's okay. So it's funny because we're talking about how Gen Zers are thinking and how they think and how older generations think too as well. And we talked about Bud Light, right? Yeah. And how they try to do something to attract Gen Zers. However, it had some huge backlash, right? And I think that's part of. So there's some controversy in this topic that we're talking about, because you're telling us, right? We're telling everybody, hey, be real, but that's who they are, and it's clashing between generation to generation. So how would you combat that?
I like.
That's a good question.
It is a good question. It's like I said, depending on what your business is, then you get into politics, right? Being real, it's a big thing now,
mm-hmm.
but it depends on what your business is.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about this, I think it was in the last episode, where like certain businesses cater to certain people.
Correct.
And so that's just something to be aware of. And I can't really stress that enough, because I mean, when it comes to Bud Light, it's beer.
Mm-hmm.
People are drinking beverages. There's no politics needed in that. And sure, I guess they wanted to attract new people into their business, and I get that, but there's many other different ways to go about that than to go into politics.
Right. So, there's a lot of businesses that are attempting to be inclusive, but what I think that businesses oversee when understanding their customers is their customer base exclusive? Because if you go from exclusive to inclusive, you could get some backlash, right? And so, I think the biggest thing is where's the fine line? Because so we go into politics. Let's talk about politics. We talk about politics, but when you say politics, and just kind of give you an understanding of what older generation think, they're going to be thinking immediately off of beliefs of Democrat and Republican, right? Like, that's politics. Yeah. However, you're talking, and we were talking about this in the Bud Light, is, a trans influencer being the new face of Bud Light, that created some backlash, right? So I think that there's some certain topics that people need to avoid if they're worried about, not attracting the right clientele or affecting their current clientele, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of being conscious of that. And so when, you're having somebody do a personal, personal being real and stuff like that, how do you avoid that? Like, how do you avoid not talking about politics, because it's part of your beliefs, it's part of who you are?
I feel like it's kind of time and place.
Yeah, it's definitely a time and place thing. I mean, it's when it's not needed, why bring it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think people, especially businesses, are thinking like, oh, like we have to be on this, we have to be on that. You don't have to always be in everything, right? Sure, there's trends that you probably should take part of if you want more exposure to your business, more traffic to your business. But there's also things that you don't always have to jump into. And we don't, obviously, like I said, there's a a lot of people who do care
Mm-hmm.
about that, but I can tell you that there's also a lot of people who don't care.
It's
Yeah.
very divided, and I feel like Gen Z is kind of multifaceted in a way because
Yeah.
there's some people who just seriously don't care. If you have a good product, you have a good product, and they're
Yeah.
going to buy it. And other people are very, very serious about, what do you believe? What are your politics? Are you supporting this? Are you not supporting this? So you have to be mindful that there are, multiple sides to it, and just remember who your audience is and is it appropriate? Is this really necessary deep down? Like, is this going to benefit them in any way? Is this going to benefit my business in any way? And then go from there.
I mean, there's even the rarity. Chick-fil-A. I don't know about y'all. I love Chick-fil-A. I could eat Chick-fil-A literally every single day.
7 times a day. There's a song about that, I think.
Dude, it's so good. But obviously Chick-fil-A is a Christian company.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've donated and taken part of certain camps that other people weren't happy about. But I mean, their product was so good, their food is so good that they still go back. Like, they don't care, right?
They forget about it.
They forget about it because I think a big thing about it, then again, if you're selling a product, make it good. If it's so good, people are going to find it hard to just drop it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing that can really hook Gen Z or just anybody in general, honestly. So having a good product, and even if you coincidentally are involved in politics, it's something you can overcome, but it's harder to do.
Mhm. So, key takeaways that I'm getting from these last 3 episodes is, 1, we need to be conscious of the problems that social media has arise in mental health, right? And 2, if you're going to do social media, you have to be mentally strong, emotionally strong, and physically strong, right?
Yeah.
We talk about, and that's kind of like in business anyways, but if you don't have, and it's funny because we talk about this when you guys interviewed for it. What was the first question I asked you when you were interviewing Bree? There was a question. I said, you remember?
Do I have thick skin?
There you go. Do you have thick skin? And it's funny because a couple of reasons to ask that, right? One, because in marketing, the clients aren't always going to be happy with your work. That's number one.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it's so creative, and it's a creative realm. And what a lot of businesses don't understand when they're hiring a marketing agency, because you're in a creative realm, when you judge somebody's creativity, it's emotional.
Yeah.
Right? It is a very emotional. And people get very angry when they talk really bad about our professionalism and all of that stuff. But, they're hiring us because of our creativity. And they're like, well, it's not what I expected. Well, if you were creative, then just do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's emotional. Second thing, you deal with internal, obviously, different people within our organization. I mean, you can have a mixed pot over here at Advent Trinity. I mean, you're telling me about a mixed pot. We've got white, Asian, black, all kinds of people here, right? And lastly, the reason why we say that too is because, once again, not everybody's going to be happy with the content that you produce, including the show. I don't know how people are going to be so happy that we talked about all kinds of different topics, some controversial topics that we talked about in this podcast. But it is something that we had to bring light to because it is an ongoing topic that's growing, right? And we can't avoid it. We can't avoid all these different types of, in generations, Z's words, trends, okay? All right. And so the biggest thing, though, is that do you have tough skin? And if you're going to be on social media, and if you're going to be a CEO, if you're going to be any kind of face of your business, you have to have tough skin, and you have to stand behind your principles. You have to stand behind your mission, your vision. This hasn't changed from generation to generation, and it hasn't changed in business. The problem is, like we talked about, is that social media is, one, it's super accessible, right? 2, it's influencing our emotional state. And 3, you have all these topics that we're talking about that we got to be careful to touch. So people are scared of being on social media, and that causes people not to be on social media, right? And so I think that, there's some back and forth. I think people are going to be confused, to be honest with you, after listening to this, because they are not going to know whether to be on social media or not.
To be or not to be.
To be
Yeah.
or not. That's going to be our final episode. To be or not to be. And here's my advice. This is what I'm going to end with this episode is if you're thinking about doing social media, doing any kind of digital marketing, stop worrying about being perfect. Because guess what? You're going to have haters.
Yes.
And so you look at me and look at Ivy. She hates me.
Love you.
So no, I say this a lot to people that are mentored, that have seen me in person. Is they say, well, why are you so confident? It's because we're gonna have haters, you're gonna have lovers. I mean, the people are gonna love you, they're gonna hate you, and that's just the world that we live in. And you've just got to continue pushing forward. And I think that's the biggest thing that we talked about is prepare yourself more than anything. More than anything, you guys talked about, once again, those topics of avoiding politics, but more than anything is make sure that you are emotionally prepared to take on the role to be able to be on social media and to be confident in yourself. You don't have to look perfect, right, ladies?
Yes.
No,
I
you don't.
come on, you have pretty and then you have me. So, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So, listen, guys, thank you guys for joining us in the Atma podcast. We're going to be talking more on different Generation Z marketing strategies. In the next few episodes, we're going to get back to marketing in general, because we've talked about some very good topics, but some things that you got to be aware of when dealing with social media. Now we're going to get into, the business side. Let's talk about target marketing. Let's talk about strategies. Let's talk about what it takes to market your business to these type of ladies here. They just look at me like, did you just say these type? Like,
You're canceled now.
Oh, geez.
Oh, the
cancel
cancel culture.
culture.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Advent Trinity's been canceled. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Once again, my name is Brian, and we will see you next time.